Good morning. Welcome to all of you, to those who are with us online and those who are gathered here in our air-conditioned chapel at the church at the corner of Marlborough and Berkeley here in Boston's Back Bay. I want to particularly welcome any visitors who are with us. I hope you will stay for coffee hour on the porch and introduce yourselves. And if you have questions about First Church Boston or Unitarian Universalism in general, ask me or really almost any member of the congregation, or go to firstchurchboston.org online, where you can find extensive information on both those topics. My one announcement this morning is that our collections in the past 2 weeks were dedicated to the fund for repair of First Parish Church in Kingston, Mass., which suffered from vandalism that included the burning of their Pride and Black Lives Matter flags in what definitely seemed to be an attack on their values and their presence. And so I am pleased to say we will be sending a contribution of $600 to help them in the repair of their damaged historic building. I think that is everything I have this morning, and I am particularly delighted to welcome our guest speaker, but who is not a guest but a member of the congregation, Dr. Helen Riess, who will be giving the sermon, a member of the faculty at Harvard Medical School and a Mass General Hospital, and a just concluded member of the Standing Committee here at First Church, and someone who brings us insight and perception in many contexts, and so I am delighted she will be doing so this morning. May our worship now begin.
Thank you, Barbara, and good morning, everyone. Welcome. So we are going to begin today with the opening words that are found in the gray hymnal, number 560. It's very short, so you can just listen if you don't want to bother looking for the pages. By Dorothy Day. People say, "What is the sense of our small effort?" They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. And in the famous words of Margaret Mead, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we will now light the chalice. And please rise for the First Church Boston affirmation. Everything with an asterisk in your order of service is an invitation to rise as you are able. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. You may be seated. Actually, now you may greet one another. And with Welcome, everyone. And now we will all take a moment to join in our opening hymn, which is number 123, Spirit of Life. And please rise as you are able. Please be seated. And we will have a responsive reading, so if you could turn to number 584 in the hymnal. It's called A Network of Mutuality. I'll speak the words in bold, and if you could follow in the unbolded text. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny.
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted.
Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that.
We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
The foundation of such a method is love.
Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which perpetuate war.
One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal.
We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means.
We shall hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope.
In the words of Martin Luther King, so be it.
The 1943 musical Oklahoma was unusual, and that instead of opening with a big production number, the show starts with just a lone cowboy singing this song on his horse. It is interesting to note that the lyricist, Oscar Hammerstein II, was raised in the Protestant church by his English mother. Later in life, he embraced Unitarianism. A personal anecdote involves a short concert I sang in a cafe in Germany several years ago. After I finished singing, I was told why the audience had laughed during the first verse of this song. I had not noticed that high up on the wall behind me was a giant photo of what was clearly an elephant's eye. Not the whole head, just the eye and the gray hide around it. the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a tree. And old weeping willow is laughing at me.
This is the moment in the service when we come together as a community to share in joys and concerns that some of us may be feeling. Bill's song was a wonderful expression of the joy of a day when you just feel it is great to be alive in the world. It's a little harder in this weather, but there are still days like that. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to share, if you would come forward, take the microphone, introduce yourself, and tell us what you would like us to know, and then take a pebble and drop it into the water. So, is there anyone this morning? Yeah, Peter, and then John. Okay. And then Fern.
This is a pebble of, I hope for now, closure. I've called to your attention in previous weeks a serious outbreak of COVID in our little retirement community around the corner, Hale House. At one point, almost half of the residents were testing positive. And we're all out of quarantine. There hasn't been a positive test in several days. We'll be resuming normal activities in a day or two. So, here goes.
I have a brand new joy. We have, I'm Fern Beck. I'm chair of membership, and I love our congregation. All right, but I do have a joy. We have a visitor, but from very far away, so I want to just say hello. I hope I don't, Anyway, that's Thomas, and he's in from Korea. So thank you so much for dropping in. All right.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is John, and John Clark, and I'm also a member of the standing committee. And as some of you know, I'm a gardener. And this summer, they had to replace the skylight, and they took the wrong measurements. And so for 2 months, we've been waiting for this new skylight to come in. And now that it's come, I can resume being a gardener, and I am filled with joy for that. Thank you.
Tom Wintle. I'm a retired Unitarian minister from Lancaster and Weston. Last week, at the age of 99, John Thayer Goodhue died. John Goodhue was a direct descendant of Nathaniel Thayer, who's the right-hand plaque up here. And his family and he said he had one request, and that was to be remembered in church this Sunday.
For those who don't know me already, I'm David Reno, and for those who do know me, I still am. My wife, Anna, as you may or may not know, had a fall. She was taken to City Hospital, where she then promptly got COVID. She is now over the COVID. She is in rehab, and she's making status quo progress. That is my concern. Friday we will see what the next step will be, and that's my concern, and I have been overwhelmed by the joy of the church who has rallied to her, given her phone calls, and wished her well. And I made a note when an aunt of mine, Aunt Topsy we called her, passed and went to the next whatever. I said to the Episcopalian minister in New Jersey, some people preach Christianity, Topsy practiced it. Some people preach love and generosity, and this church practices it. And I thank you. Oh, I hope I didn't break it.
All right. And if there is no one else, then I will place one more stone for the joys and concerns that we carry unspoken in our hearts.
Thank you. We will now share a meditation that I will read by Wendell Berry. In this time of meditation, may you rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. In weakness, may you sense the strength of the eternal hills and rest in the grace of the world. In failure, may you be upheld like buoyancy of water and rest in the grace of the world. In limitation, may you remember that the choices may be as great as the expanse of the sky and rest in the grace of the world. In insecurity, may you feel the solid earth beneath your feet and rest in the grace of the world. In despair, may you hear the joy in birds singing and rest in the grace of the world. In fear, may you feel the warmth of the sun and rest in the grace of the world. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Barbara.
Our sermon reading is also by Wendell Berry and also takes us into the world. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free.
So it's a privilege and an honor to be with you here today. and I extend a warm welcome to all of those joining us online. Today we're going to explore the significance of finding deep rest amidst challenging and often chaotic times we are living in. We'll begin with the wisdom of mindfulness teacher Cynthia Lee, who said, "Our hearts are designed to empty and fill at the same time, receiving and sending lifeblood with every pulse. If the heart does not empty, it does not fill." This biological metaphor underscores the balance necessary between giving service and receiving support to effectively engage in activism. Yet the activist's frenzy can derail this balance. As Thomas Merton warned, overwork and excessive activism can neutralize our work for peace because it kills the root of inner wisdom. We also learn from spiritual leader Mahatma Gandhi, who contrasts the violence that dysregulated emotions can cause, who wisely said, "In a gentle way, you can shake the world." We're currently facing profound and at times paralyzing threats from political rhetoric and Supreme Court decisions that shake the foundation of our Constitution and our democracy. Many of us believe that the independence from authoritarianism and a commitment to democracy was secured in 1776, allowing us to think that our democratic foundation would protect our liberties and our freedoms. However, we recognize that human rights are not absolute. They must be fought for and protected. Today, the protection of our freedoms is at risk, which is contributing to heightened and pervasive anxiety. A recent publication in the journal Psychological Review revealed that most daytime hours of healthy working age adults are spent in a state called moderate threat arousal. Two core components that drive stress perception are uncertainty and a lack of control. This level of stress is harmful to both physical and emotional health and can lead to feelings of helplessness and hopelessness. With stress levels continuing to rise for most people in the U.S., contemplative practices are being studied to help manage distressing emotions and to increase a sense of safety and well-being. Today I'll discuss how to remain centered during these threatening times so that we can effectively share our values and principles and fight for human liberties. I'll approach this topic from three perspectives: a personal and historical perspective, a scientific and biological perspective, and a contemplative and spiritual perspective. My personal family history and my parents' experiences during and after World War II serve as a precursor for understanding my own and others' fears about threats to democracy. Because I grew up hearing stories of brutal dictators, these stories seemed rooted in the past and didn't seem alive as threats we would face in our lifetimes. Many of us believed that the U.S. would not repeat the mistakes that led to autocratic governments that orchestrated the Holocaust and other genocides. Throughout my childhood, fragments of my parents' and grandparents' traumatic experiences were shared, eventually forming a coherent story that my siblings and I would learn as we grew older. Like many trauma survivors, my parents balanced the desire to shield us from their painful memories with also the need to teach us early warning signs of danger, signs that some of their relatives ignored, which led to their demise. My parents instilled empathy in us for the trauma they endured and other people who similarly have suffered, and the importance of learning from what happened to them and to help others. My parents' families were part of a European pacifist sect called the Nazarenes, who were persecuted during World War II for refusing to bear arms. After the war, when the Tito regime took over the former Yugoslavia, he started an ethnic cleansing campaign that resulted in estimates between 600,000 and 1.2 million people being killed. My father's parents were executed when he was 14 years old, and he and his siblings were sent to a starvation camp. The terror my father felt when soldiers took his parents at gunpoint and the shock from learning of their deaths left a scar on him for life. The family's land was seized along with all of their possessions, and their home was converted into a hospital for Tito's soldiers. My mother's family suffered similar losses, and her father died in a forced labor camp. My parents eventually escaped these camps and met each other in a church in Austria, where they found safety from a supportive community. As refugees, they faced many hardships. They were helped by relatives and their church community, which helped my father get an education and helped my mother get a job as a governess. They eventually emigrated to the United States with the support of my father's uncle, who had left Europe before Tito's takeover. This uncle saw imminent danger, left his home, all his possessions, and took his wife and 2 children and came to the United States. My uncle's approach to facing reality contrasts sharply with my grandfather's deep denial. My grandfather couldn't bear to leave his estate and the life he enjoyed, and ultimately he lost all the possessions he was so intent on saving, including his own life. In the US, my father's uncle helped my parents make a new start, helping them provide better for their family, our family, and ensuring that we got a good education and instilling values about helping others and leading a meaningful life. My father became a lay minister who spoke powerfully about how he transformed his sorrow, bitterness, and hatred into hope and love through his faith and the generosity of others. I share this with you because so many of us have relatives and loved ones who have suffered and been killed during wars and genocides and continue to suffer today. Shared trauma and the legacy of persecution can heighten sensitivities to current events. As Danya Ruttenberg reminds us, there is a strong connection between empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, and the impulse to address the harm caused to others. Furthermore, constant media exposure forecasting imminent danger can be overwhelming and counterproductive, as we are seeing similar patterns of chaos and violent rhetoric unfolding today. Dysregulated emotions can lead to impulsive acts that both commit and invoke violence. These emotions must be recognized and managed. Entering heightened states of anxiety or states of denial, as my grandfather did, are not productive strategies to meet this moment. This is why the state of deep rest is so important to understand and to enter into on a regular basis. Deep rest requires that we learn to temporarily stop acting and reacting, and it is practiced by entering into micro moments of presence and rest as preparation for deep rest. These micro moments are as present as the space between our in-breaths and out-breaths. And there are examples all around us. Think about the butterfly effect, which suggests that small actions can have a profound impact, much like the way butterfly wings flapping could theoretically start a typhoon. In this allegory, between each flap, there is a moment of stillness between the up flap and the down flap. This is a concept mirrored in our breathing and in music. As composer Claude Debussy and jazz musician Miles Davis both noted, it is in the space between the notes where the music resides. We must embrace the power of stillness. It is these pauses in our moments of calm and reflection that we find the strength to make a difference, to fill our hearts, and to gently shake the world for the better. Drawing from history, peaceful protests led by figures like Gandhi and Martin Luther King exemplify how nonviolent activism, rooted in self-regulation and emotional calm, can effectively drive change. Such historical narratives encourage us to adopt a composed yet powerful approach to activism. This summer, the series of sermons at First Church have emphasized the importance of contemplative practices and exposure to the arts during these challenging political times, with no prior coordination of our speakers. This theme has resonated like a community heartbeat, underscoring the profound threats to civility, empathy, compassion, and safety in our country and the world. The physiologic effects of chronic threat responses and energy depletion are likely already impacting our health and well-being, which is why I'll discuss the science of deep rest. To get started, let's just briefly engage together in deep breathing and a visualization that illustrates what I'm talking about. Together, let's lower our gaze or close your eyes as you feel comfortable. Together, let's inhale to the count of 4 and stay in the space between this inhale and your out breath, and then exhale to the count of 7. Let's do this 2 more times. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Stay in the stillness. And then exhale to the count of 7. Again, inhale to the count of 4, 2, 3. Stay in this moment of stillness. And exhale to the count of 7. Now, as your gaze remains lowered, notice any distracting thoughts you may be having with curiosity and without judgment. Now, imagine that your thoughts are a collection of colored balloons that you're holding in your hand. And as you name and identify them, gently let them go and let them float out far away from you. Notice them and bring your focus gently back into this room. Now, you may feel slightly lighter or more focused, and know that you can access visualizations like this whenever you need to. This exercise demonstrates how controlled breath can activate our parasympathetic nervous system, shifting us to a state of rest and mitigating the stress response. Contemplative practices include a range of activities like meditation, prayer, deep breathing, visualization, yoga, Tai Chi, and others. Contemplative practices also include being present in supportive, loving relationships and gathering in safe spaces with those with shared values, like this place. Contemplative practices are essential for our health because they communicate a sense of safety to the body, mind, and spirit. And this allows us to shift away from states of threat arousal, which are energetically very costly. This state replaces threat signals with safety cues and enable our physiology to move toward restful functioning. The most complete example of deep rest, of course, is sleep. And research shows that entering shorter periods of rest during the day through contemplative practices improves resilience. As a doctor, I find it fascinating to learn how these practices benefit us at the physiological level. We all know the calming effect of deep breathing and meditation, and understanding the mechanisms behind them is also remarkable. Introducing the power of breath work and meditation in the empathy training work that my teams do with health professionals, and especially surgeons and law enforcement officers, has profound effects when they learn these techniques. So how does our nervous system handle states of threat arousal? We have 2 main systems called the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system was so named because its actions are often grouped together in sympathy with the needs of the body when we enter a fight or flight state. It coordinates the heartbeat, our respiration rate, blood flowing to our large muscles, and quieting the gut as we prepare for fight or flight. Stressful situations activate us, and an analogy to this system is like stepping on the gas pedal to speed away from a pursuing car. The parasympathetic nervous system does just the opposite. It steps on the gas pedal and allows the pursuing car to speed right past us. We can activate the parasympathetic nervous system through controlled, slow breathing, techniques like elongating the exhalation, as we just did, and these deep belly breaths stimulate pressure receptors that slow our heart rate and our breathing rate and lower our blood pressure. When we're not under threat, our cellular and physiological resources shift from survival to restoring vital functions at the cellular level. That involves repairing cells for overall health and longevity. Central to this process is our cellular mitochondria. Do you remember that little organelle you learned in high school in biology? The mitochondria are the energy hub of our cells, which transform the oxygen we breathe in into ATP, which is the energy currency of our body. When our energy is constantly spent on stress responses, it's diverted from vital cellular functions that keep us healthy. By engaging in contemplative practices, we can harness our energy through states of deep rest, facilitate cellular restoration, and achieve comprehensive physical, mental, and spiritual wellness. When we optimize rest states at our disposal, we are better equipped to face threats to our safety by planning and implementing strategies to preserve our democracy thoughtfully and in community. Embracing deep rest is not about denial or complacency, but about harnessing our collective physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual energy wisely. The need for deep rest, to use our energy collectively to oppose authoritarianism, is more important than ever as we promote community building activities that will ensure that our shared values will survive. Deep rest and contemplative practices are a form of self-empathy. Yes, that is not a contradiction in terms. Self-empathy means we also take care of ourselves the way we would take care of a loved one. And that is necessary for collective activism. So how does faith that we can put our faith into works happen? Here are some practical steps to engage in community efforts. There are many organizations that bring people with shared values together to effect change. One of them is UU the Vote. In a webinar that I joined this past week, over 600 people joined to learn about ways that they could get engaged in ways to preserve our democracy. I learned that door knocking is the most effective way to promote voter participation through conversation, curiosity, respect, and relationship building. Not all of us can do door knocking because we are doing other things during the day, but there are other ways. We can engage in training for phone banks and postcard writing to foster connections and advocate for change. We need to understand that venting, while helpful to discharge our own anxiety, isn't sufficient to effect any change. It may even make others more anxious and make them feel helpless unless we are sharing ways to help. Take opportunities to share your values when they crop up. They happen everywhere. The other day, my friend Pat and I were at the Boston Farmers Market, and we were approached by a woman to sign a petition to add a green candidate to the presidential ticket. We explained that this was not the time to split a vote, and instead of just saying no, we said we were more concerned about preserving democracy so that climate change and other policies will continue to be a federal priority. Respectfully engage with others of differing opinions to find some common ground. Limit consumption of anxiety-inducing media to protect your peace. As Reverend Small shared in his sermon just 2 weeks ago, the things we preach are often the very things that we need to learn ourselves. Participate in things like the UU Common Read this summer to discuss Daniel Ruttenberg's book on repentance and repair. That way you learn to meet other people, discuss an important book, and build community. And I believe that Common Read is happening on August 18th? 25th. Okay, August 25th. Thanks, Rosemary. In conclusion, let's remember to shake the world gently, we must first nurture ourselves. While we may feel overwhelmed, connected to our inner selves and our community can fuel effective and compassionate activism. May we close with a moment of stillness to collectively engage in a moment of deep rest, honoring our shared journey as we prepare ourselves for action in our communities. Generosity and participation are the foundations for the work of our faith. We will now receive the offering, and please give as generously as you are able for the sustenance of the church and all who gather here.
What a wonderful world. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for you and me, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, a bright, blessed day, the dark, sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are always on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Please remain standing and find hymn 1012 in the teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened.
When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me, comfort me tenderly? Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to
We will now extinguish the chalice. Please join in the words, "We extinguish this flame." The work continues. Our time together is finished, but our work is not yet done. May our spirits be renewed and our purpose resolved as we meet the challenges of the week and months and years to come. The chalice flame is extinguished until once again ignited by the strength in our communion. Go now in peace.